Adreena Winters, known by many as the Queen of Cuckolds, is a leading voice in the UK's erotic content creation scene. With 15 years' experience in the adult industry, Adreena has captivated many and carved a unique niche as a professional femme and cook queen, captivating audiences through her self-produced images and videos, as well as her work in high-end adult entertainment. Driven by a desire to empower individuals and explore their sexual fantasies, Adreena founded the Cuck Academy, a welcoming and educational space for those curious about the cuckold dynamic. Her expertise and insights are further solidified with the recent release of her book, So You Want to Be a Cuckold, where she shares her knowledge and celebrates the empowering potential of this often misunderstood kink. Firstly, thank you so much for joining us. Super kind of you to give your time. And I've got a lot to ask you, so I'll try not to keep you for too long. But the first thing I think I have to start with is you've been a prominent figure in the industry for a little while now. Could you take us back to the beginning and share what was it that drew you to this path as a career choice?
I guess I've always been quite open-minded, and also I've never been really one to conform. I was never like popular at school, and that didn't really bother me. Like, if I was interested in something or wanted to do something, I would go and do it regardless of how sort of society might label me, which I guess helped. So in my late teens, I was already curious about fetish clubs. I lived in Somerset, and there was one fetish club that happened twice a year. But I went to that like when I was 19 on my own, just like, yeah, I want to go. I'm interested. I'm just gonna turn up and see what happens. So I guess that has helped. But I started off as a waitress at Pizza Hut when I was kind of going to these fetish events. And then at one of these events, I just got approached by a guy shooting bondage content and was like, would you like to be on our website? And I was like, yeah, okay. And things sort of just progressed from there. I started shooting for more and more different fetish websites. And so then I was sort of reducing my hours at Pizza Hut to the point where I could kind of quit Pizza Hut and focus fully on I guess being a fetish model at that point. And then that kind of evolved into shooting hardcore porn. I was approached by a porn producer in the UK. And so I kind of went down that avenue for a bit, working for different studios and doing all the like top shelf magazines and all that kind of fun stuff that seems like decades ago now.
Really, yeah.
And then I guess it wasn't until lockdown really where there was a huge shift where studios weren't really able to shoot, and so kind of power became more into the sort of performers brands, and things like OnlyFans took off, and different clip stores that I was already on but not maybe focusing on as much. And I guess it was from that point that I sort of stopped shooting for studios and really, really focused on what it was I wanted to kind of focus on and what I wanted to do. I guess I just had more autonomy from that point. I wasn't having to try and fit into what studios were wanting to shoot. I could kind of just focus on who my fan base were and what they wanted to see from me and what I could give them.
It feels like the word I'd use to describe what you've done is brave, really.
Thank you.
I don't know many 19-year-old young women that would say, yeah, it's a fetish club. Yeah, I'll just go on my own.
Yeah, I don't think I realised how unusual that was.
Bondage photographs, yeah, I'll do that. Yeah, Pizza Hut, yeah, I'll do that. It's already Pizza Hut, bondage photos, hardcore porn. Yeah, why not? It's sort of, yeah, it's like that film. Is it called Yes Man? You feel like a yes woman. You just try the different stuff. So were you quite a sexual person from puberty?
Yes, I would say so. In fact, I'm having this conversation with my partner this week because I don't know if you're watching it, there's a show on at the moment called The Virgin Island.
Yes, I've not watched it, but I've seen clips.
I'm actually finding it more interesting than I thought I would. It's actually quite a thought-provoking series. But
it's more sensitive. I thought it'd be a sort of, I don't know, like a maths type thing where you just
I was worried it was just about
almost to mock them.
Yeah,
it doesn't feel like they've been mocked. It feels like they've been helped.
Yeah, it's really, really nice. But what I'm hearing a lot from them is that they have just not felt ready. And I was saying to my partner, I never had that. Like when the moment came, I was like, yeah, this feels, I'm ready for this. Like I can't really compute like not being ready. So yeah, I guess I've always just been quite open to it.
Yeah, and I don't know now whether it's because, I mean, you said it. I mean, when I was growing up, porn was literally a magazine from the top shelf.
Yeah.
And I will admit to having stolen a Playboy magazine, so I was too embarrassed to go buy one. I know, terrible, isn't it? And Razzle, I think, I might have stolen.
Oh, I've been in that one.
Yes. That was it. So I was too embarrassed to go and buy them, but that was porn. It was, oh my goodness, and I got passed around the playground.
Yeah.
There's a woman with their clothes on. Oh my God. Whereas now, I guess if you are a virgin or coming to puberty or whatever now, you look for porn. I think Pornhub gets 4 billion hits a month. That's just one. I mean, so you're suddenly, it's a bit like learning to swim. You literally are thrown into the most torrid river you can imagine, as opposed to sort of paddling. I think I was paddling with the magazines, whereas now you're literally, unless you're ready for what you're going to see, it can be quite, you might look at your body and think, God, my cock's not that big.
Yeah.
Wow, my vagina doesn't look like that. My breasts are different shapes. My nipples go inward. It's hard, I guess, when you have that sort of stereotype of what people who perhaps aren't that experienced view sexuality, sex, relationships to be. So I can understand why those people are a bit nervous.
Yeah, I hadn't considered that.
What people would expect.
I guess magazines were kind of great because it would lead you to fantasize yourself and kind of fill in the gaps yourself and kind of, whereas porn, it's just all very much just in your face.
It is, yeah. I mean, obviously, I am still in magazines for the articles, obviously.
Obviously.
Which were. And then when did the sort of cuckolding element come to play?
So I guess, like I said, I got into studio porn. I think I was about 21 when I did my first scene. And then I guess I was dating at the time. And so the men I was dating, as much as I hadn't really thought about it properly, were having to be okay with the fact that my job was going to go and have sex with other men. And I guess I never really had I guess I didn't even really know what cuckolding was at that point, but it was clear, one particular guy, started offering to film for me and stuff. And I think that was him wanting to kind of watch or be a kind of a voyeur in that dynamic.
Yeah.
I guess I sort of in those sorts of dynamics from my early 20s. And then it wasn't until this is about 26 that I met a guy. It was actually on set. He was a camera guy for quite a prominent studio in the UK. We ended up in a relationship, and he was very much into cuckolding and very open about being into cuckolding, and was very proactive about arranging scenarios for us, going to events and clubs and meeting up with people and all that kind of fun stuff. We were together for sort of like 5 years, so that kind of developed quite a bit. So yeah, I guess that's.
And did you very naturally fall into the role of dominant then?
Yeah, I certainly wasn't in my younger years when I was sort of first going to the fetish clubs. Like I said, I was a bondage model, so I was kind of the rope bottom. And but I kind of figured that in hindsight, it's probably the best place to learn is to kind of receive, and then you kind of understand, and then you can kind of.
Yeah, it's that balance, isn't it? I suppose. But I mean, I do think a lot of people might not understand what cuckolding really is, because I think a lot of people see it as it's weakness and it's complete dominance, and it's very nuanced, isn't it? I mean, how would you? It's a big question, I guess. How would you define what cuckolding is and the sort of misunderstandings that some people have?
Yeah, I mean, I guess on a very simple level, it's just, your partner enjoying seeing you having sex with someone else. And I guess it comes in quite a few different forms. For some guys, it's just like the ultimate kind of act of devotion for them if they, they just want to see their partner just having the best experiences they can be, exploring their sex life in a really safe and secure environment that, only they could provide for them, which I think is lovely. And I think that's completely overlooked. And I don't think that comes from a place of weakness at all. I think that comes from a place of huge strengths and confidence and confidence in, their relationship and their communication. I think it's fantastic. And then there is another side, which I enjoy quite a lot personally, but it's certainly not the ultimate in cuckolding. It's kind of more of a humiliation side of things, and them being made to feel that they're not enough, and that their partner needs something more and something else than them. But quite often that comes from men that are very secure in their job and themselves, and it's just a kink that they like to explore.
Yeah. It's funny, isn't it? I mean, that's how I understood it, I guess. And I've talked to some dominatrix in different markets. I talked to a lady in Romania who's fabulous, and she was saying that a lot of the men that come to her, it's because they can't or feel they can't have that conversation with their partner because their sexual partner, their wife, whatever, sort of, they feel that they need to be the man of the house sort of thing in that very old-fashioned way of doing things, and that they have a lot of them have very well-paid, very powerful jobs, and nobody would dare say no to them at work. So for them, it's a sort of release of an hour or 2 hours of being submissive, to being humiliated, to being told that their cock's too small to satisfy anybody, all those sort of things, and then they go back to their wife and sort of carry on, and it's I guess it's in one way it's a shame that people don't feel able to communicate within their relationship and have that, but it's good that there is this release elsewhere and that people can get it satisfied. It's not in the oddest possible way of saying it. It's not hurting anybody. It's hopefully strengthening what people have, really. But if you can't have that conversation,
was kind of why I wrote the book that I wrote, because I get so many men come to me that either don't even know how to begin to approach the subject with their partner, or they have and it's gone badly. So I thought, I think there's a kind of a gap here where men kind of need advice specifically from a woman on how to approach women with their feelings on this. So
I think one of the problems is that men, well, it's like in most situations in life, when you want to bridge something that's perhaps a difficult topic, you've been thinking about it for weeks, months, and sometimes years, and then you've got this whole scenario in your head. You've worked out every possible scenario, and then you go to talk to your partner and say, I really like you to dominate me. It's like, what? What? Pervert. And it's just suddenly, because they're not on the journey. You've had this months, 6 months, year, 2 years to think about it, and you've got in your head what you want to do, exactly the scenarios and everything. And then you suddenly blow it all by just blurting it out in the middle of lunch or something. And it's sort of, right, okay, that's maybe not the right way to approach it. Just here's, as you said, the book is about how do you approach it much more rationally so that somebody can catch up and explain what it is and build up to things. Don't sort of, suddenly sort of throw into, I'd love to watch you having sex with 5 men. What? It's that might
Baby
work,
steps.
but I'm probably not. It's not going to work. So when did you first become known as the Queen of Cuckolds? I do love the title.
So it was just on Twitter. Like just more and more guys were sort of referring it to, and I quite liked it actually. It's quite a good
I'm going to take that
ring to it. So I was like, I'll take that. I like it. And no one really questions it.
With a tiara or a crown or anything?
I have got a couple of little crowns that I do wear occasionally for photo shoots, but I haven't doubled down on the Queen stuff. And also British, so it's sort of
True.
the Americans love the British accent in there.
Absolutely. Yeah. So in the different things that you do, so author, founder of the Academy, performer, content creator, increasingly educating people. Do you have a favorite one, or do they all sort of balance together very comfortably?
It's kind of interesting because I'm finding more and more the content is what people find and that it kind of wakes something up in them. I quite often get people writing to me saying like, I didn't even know about cuckolding until I found you and I watched your content, and then it really resonated with me, and then they kind of want to learn more. So putting the content out there is really good in that way, and that it kind of has the reach. But actually I was looking up this morning on like, how do I formally perhaps become a sex educator or coach, because I think I'd actually find that quite fulfilling, kind of focusing more on the education, and just there's just so many guys out there that just feel so misunderstood, and that, you know, they don't feel able to be who they want to be, and it just makes me quite sad. So I'd just like to be able to, you know, create more of a space for that kind of education. Yeah.
So I think that's, I think you'd be great at that. And there's a lot of good places now sort of teach sex education. There's ASECT in the US, there's Sex University in the US. There's lots of places where you can qualify if that's the route to take. But I think there's, and this is very odd when you say it out loud or even hear it. Obviously, there's 8 billion people on the planet now, and the odds that your individual kink or desire is unique are very limited.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of men out there that think, oh, none of my friends would do this. Oh, none of my friends feel like that. Oh God, no. It must be something only I feel it. And then you get that shame, the stigma, the guilt, all those things, which are just such a set of wasted emotions. Guilt and shame. It's so sad that people feel that way. And for some people, it really can ruin their life, I guess.
Yeah.
So having somebody to talk to that's not only academically aware, but is sensitive to human nature and sort of live through the experience, I think it'd be in massive demand. I think people do want to talk.
Yeah.
And people, even with therapists, a lot of therapists aren't able to deal with or understand what's happening. Because therapists will sort of claim to be able to talk about anything, and they will listen to anything. But what guidance are they going to offer?
Yeah.
It's, you should talk to your partner. Okay. That's not really going to help, really, is it? And they come back in a month. It's like, my partner's moved out. Great. I've lost the kids. I've lost the dog. I'm sleeping in my car. Thanks for that. It's, And I think exploring desire is a key theme of what we talk about here. And I wonder what you found most fascinating about desire, both yours and people you work with. Have your desires personally changed over time?
Oh. Trying to think like what sort of angle to approach that from. I guess on quite a personal level, I guess I personally am just much more focused on my own personal desire. I think in my 20s I was very focused on pleasing other people and how to do that, whereas now I'm like, no, like I want something out of this as well, and you know, it's a two-way street, and I think more focus on me is good.
It is good, and I think a lot of that comes down to the fact that when we're young, and we first start having these feelings we can't put a name to, and we perhaps explore, we perhaps touch ourselves, we perhaps get told we're going to go blind if we keep doing that, we get our hands slapped away or whatever. I don't think we certainly don't learn about it at school. It's quite a rare thing that somebody would spend an hour or 2 hours sort of mapping their body's sexuality, knowing what feels good.
Yeah.
I think we sort of rush into masturbation, which is great, but it's very quick because we don't want somebody to come to the door and bang on the door or whatever. We then have sex with somebody, and then we carry on and we please them, they please us, whatever.
Yeah.
But actually, I've talked to people that are sort of in relatively late in their lives, and they're sort of, gosh, I've just discovered that I really love the inside of my wrist being touched. I really love my elbow being touched or whatever. And they've never felt it, because to them, the erogenous zone was penis, vagina, and if they're lucky, nipples maybe, and that's it. So I think as we get more confident, having the ability to be able to explore just what feels nice.
Yeah.
And that might feel nice to somebody else. There's things you can do there's so many toys now that allow you to play and enjoy and indulge yourself. And isn't life about indulging ourselves? And it's not expensive. It doesn't cost anything. It's harmless, and you're not going to go blind. And why shouldn't we enjoy what we enjoy?
Yeah, I agree.
And I think especially for it's still the case that many women still feel the need to please and to fake pleasure. The statistics of how many women can achieve orgasm via penetration are so low, yet men think, but my partner always does.
Yeah.
It's sort of, really?
Yeah.
It's this sort of,
I can't come from just
that's somebody else's
penetration.
right. Yeah. It's funny, isn't it? But that's legitimately the man thinking, oh my God, I'm to blame. I can't, fuck my wife well enough to bring her to orgasm. It's not that. It's a body. It's a very complicated machine, really.
We're all built very differently.
We are just about exploring the body and allowing that. And recognizing that sex isn't just about penetration. And I think that's something, again, we get into our heads at a very young age. Sex. And we always often talk about doing sex. It feels like something you're doing to somebody as opposed to with somebody.
Yeah. I think that's why I really enjoy talking to the types of fans that I have, that are quite accepting that they have these like cuckolding feelings, and they've kind of accepted that like penetrative sex isn't maybe something that they're actually that interested in, and they get much more out of seeing their partner with someone else that wants to do that with them. And they get much more satisfaction out of, helping facilitate that or watching that or, being there afterwards kind of to reconnect emotionally or all those sorts of things. So it's really nice that they kind of have that awareness that like, it's not just about the penetration. There's all these other kind of elements that they enjoy having with their partner.
And do you think they almost derive more intimacy from the cuckold dynamic than actually the sexual act itself?
Potentially, yeah. I mean, certainly, I've just started filming a series called Cuckold Confessions, and I've been filming it with real life couples who, I mean, they are OnlyFans creators, so they do film their own content, but they have that dynamic for real in their life. And I decided I wanted to add an element of kind of afterwards with them sort of coming back together again. And it's been some really lovely moments of just kind of them, the intimacy of them coming back together again. It's been really lovely to see. And I'm really enjoying being able to film that and kind of share that element with my audience as well, rather than it just always being the degrading sort of crawl away kind of stuff.
Yeah, I know. It's if you see cuckolding portrayed in porn, it generally ends when it ends. It doesn't have the follow-up piece afterwards. How did that feel? And what was it like for you? I guess people would find another clip at that point. They wouldn't necessarily watch to the end point, I guess. And I think pornography, I don't think pornography is good or bad. I think pornography is something that is it's a leisure pursuit. It's something that people can indulge with, people can enjoy, and people can take pleasure from. I think it's often a starting point for people that are looking for different sexual experiences. And you list down the sort of categories down the side. I'm like, never heard of that. Click on that. I think, what's that? Is it? And I think that's where people get their first intro to it. So I wonder what you thought there. Do you think porn is helpful in exposing different kinks and showing people that actually perhaps other people do that, like that, enjoy that?
Yeah. I mean, I guess for me personally, I found that when I was younger, that like little things that I was into, I was like, oh, other people are into that as well, and I can see that here. Sorry, I had another point I was going to say, and it's completely gone out of my head. Nope, it's gone. Don't remember what I was going to say. But yeah, I do think it can be helpful for people to not feel like they're alone and And I remember what I was going to say. And also, I think, I guess it's quite polarized. I think with OnlyFans and creators being able to portray some something more realistic than maybe the studios were shooting, you know, in the previous decades. I think that's also helpful, you know, kind of seeing people that maybe you might identify with rather than it just being, you know, the typical, you know, figures that you used to see in studio porn. I think that's helpful as well.
Yeah, and I think OnlyFans, a place like that, which has changed the dynamic completely, is it allows, depending on the performer, allows interaction.
Yeah.
So I think we watch porn on a porn site and we watch the sort of porn source mold, and like you say, it's in the studio and people watch it not knowing it's taken a day to film half an hour scene and it's stopped 18 times and the guy's got to get hard again and got to add more lube and it's not gonzo sex, it's not sort of straight through. And I think with the OnlyFans, not only is that slightly more, in the most positive way, amateurish, dynamic, more appealing, but the fact that then you can actually talk to people and reach out to them and ask them to do particular bespoke things, etc., that's changed things massively. Because if you think about a film you might watch on Netflix or whatever, all you can ever do is watch it and then, well, that was good, that's interesting. You can send a fan letter if you want to never get a response to. Whereas an OnlyFans, for you know, depending on the performer again, for a relatively insignificant amount of money, actually talk to them, ask them questions, and that's a massive change, and that hopefully has put more power back in the performers' hands, that they can choose who is allowed to see their content, they can choose who to create content for, they can choose what to do or not to do, and that feels like a better version of porn, if it is to be called porn. And is that where you find people will interact with you directly and they'll, I guess you almost become their confidant in some way sometimes?
Yeah, definitely. But I think also before, people used to kind of forget that you were a real person somehow. I think in their minds, you know, maybe it helped themselves, you know, jerk off if they weren't thinking that you were a real human, especially if it was something degrading that they were watching or whatever. And I think with OnlyFans, it kind of has blurred that quite a lot, and people do see that we are just real people. And, you know, especially, you know, if a lot of us have social media presence and, you know, we're constantly posting on Instagram our kind of real lives and stuff. And I think that in a weird way actually made society much more accepting of sex workers, because they're like, oh, they're real humans just like us. They're not like this thing.
No, I know. So, yeah, if somebody watches a video of you having sex with 4 guys or whatever, they're not sat there thinking, that's somebody's daughter, that's somebody's sister, that's somebody's wife, that's somebody that goes to Tesco, that's somebody that eats at Pizza Hut. No, it's as you say, it's because in some cases the things that people are watching, they're never going to experience in their own life. So it almost becomes, let's just make believe the people are just sort of made up.
Yeah.
And whereas, like you say now, we're actually people seeing that you have a normal life.
Yeah.
You have dogs, you have pets, you have you know, you have to walk around, you have to pick up dog shit. It's like everybody else, really. It's interesting how that dynamic has changed things, and it's I guess during lockdown, that's when OnlyFans really sort of built a bit of steam. I guess now it's just much more competitive.
Yeah.
But having a brand, having a position, you know, Queen of Cuckolds, and having a particular niche must make it much more solid, and you don't feel quite as overwhelmed by the 1,000 new people that are launching products every day.
Yeah, I think it was always very important for me to not just be generic. It was very important for me to kind of have a niche that I was excited about and that interested me, and that I liked the fans that were into that. And yeah, I think that helps. I think because a lot of people seem to be jumping on the sort of cuckolding bandwagon because it's such a popular niche at the moment. And I think very quickly people are like, oh no, you don't actually know anything about this. they kind of, move along.
Yeah, I think, exactly that. People just mirror this, or search what's the most popular. There's, we'll do that.
Yeah.
But they're not. I think you do have to almost feel it in a way.
Yeah.
To really, I think people can very quickly tell if somebody's genuine or not.
Yeah.
I think that's what people want, is that sort of genuine element to what somebody's portraying that they deliver.
Yeah.
Not somebody that's just doing it for cash, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Does it work the other way for you? So you're comfortable with your partner having sex with other women? Does that turn you on, bother you? Not something you're into?
So in my relationship now, we are very monogamous. I've actually retired from, I've never actually officially said this. I have retired from filming with other men a couple of years ago. You have an exclusive there. I haven't announced that.
I can
officially.
literally hear hearts breaking around here. He's looking out the window over there. It's gosh.
So we're in a very monogamous relationship ourselves, but I have been in open relationships in the past. It's just not something that that we felt like we needed to do now in this relationship. So it's where we are now.
Wow.
Mm.
That's big.
Yeah.
So with everybody, women as well.
Yeah, I'm very straight. I've never really particularly done a lot of kind of girl content anyway. Partly because it didn't really interest me, and secondly, it never really sold, I guess, because it didn't interest me. So, it's not really something I've ever really done a lot of.
So looking beyond your professional persona, actually, no, let me rephrase that. Is there a big difference between the persona or character you might play when you're cuckolding or filming or creating content, and who you are individually? When a friend meets you for coffee and you might go out for a night with the girls, or whatever, are you sort of what you see is what you get, or are you, there's a different balance to the different sides of you?
So again, I was talking to my partner about this recently as well, and he said that my work persona is just my personal persona, just like times by 10. So like the same, it's just all amplified, and that I think that's accurate.
I think a lot of people are there. We're very, very rarely the same person at work as we are at home. And it's sometimes when you might hear your partner on a work phone call, you're thinking, who's that person? Because they're talking. Even their voice changes. The voice changes, the attitude changes, everything. So because if you were the same person in every scenario, it's be odd, wouldn't it? I mean, I'm a different person if I'm with my, if I was with my grandparents, or if I'm with my friends, or if I'm with colleagues, or I'm with children, whatever. Of course you are. So I think that's it's nice to be able to keep different elements of you to people that you really care about.
Yeah,
I think that's really, because it's nice to have something that only one other person gets to see.
Yeah,
and it sounds like that's where you are now.
Yeah.
So if individuals listen to this, once we've got over the astonishing news of you retiring, undefeated, I should say, and they were thinking about exploring the cuckold dynamic, they might feel a bit hesitant or unsure, what initial advice would you offer them? So assuming, hopefully, they've gone out and read your book, they've gone to the Cuck Academy, what would you say to them about maybe exploring this in the real world?
I think what I consistently say is they really need to think about why it is that they want to explore it. I think a lot of people think it's like quite a hot fantasy, but then when you actually think about the realities of it, maybe it's not quite what they were looking for, or maybe it's something that you just fantasize about with your partner rather than actually, going all the way. And so, like maybe just really, really think about what it is that you want to get out of it before you kind of dive in feet first. And then just baby steps, I think, just like like fantasize with your partner about it, maybe chat with someone online, rather than just going like, oh, we'll go to this fetish club this weekend and see what happens. Like, I think that's sort of the final step.
I mean, who on earth would go to a fetish club at 19 by
I know,
themselves? I
right?
can't
Who
think of
does that?
anybody that would do that. What on earth would happen in that situation? So now you've sort of stopped filming content and you're more focused on your own channels and perhaps on more education. What do you think what does it feel like the future holds?
I'm really at a point where I just really want, men that don't identify as an alpha to feel that doesn't make them weak or any less important or any less valued by society, and that they still have, a space, and they still have, very important qualities, and just kind of helping them find their place and confidence in themselves. I think that's the biggest thing, is they just don't have the confidence to be that. And for me, I love when, like, a fan that I've been talking to suddenly just like gets it, that like they don't have to be ashamed, and they're perfectly valued in their feelings and who they want to be, and that's fine. And just seeing the confidence that comes from them just suddenly being like, oh, okay, I can just be me. And then what comes from that, like, quite often they do end up, in really healthy relationships and stuff, because they're finally just like, okay, I don't need to pretend to be something I'm not anymore.
Yeah, I really like that. It's interesting, I think, because perhaps a word you wouldn't necessarily associate with somebody being cuckolded is confident. You must feel that part of that is taken away from them. But I think, as you say, it's almost the ultimate confidence to be secure enough in yourself to be able to do that.
Yeah.
So that's the message to men, I think. Is, and so I'm not sure, is to sort of look. It's the ultimate demonstration of strength.
Yeah.
To
That's how I see it.
put yourself in a position.
Yeah.
And I think it's and that's what I think people misunderstand, perhaps thinking this is almost the ultimate weakness. But it's really not. It's something that you've decided you want to do, want to explore. And as you say, there's so many variants of it. It's not a case of, right, you dive in and do everything. It's explore at your pace and find out what works for you.
Yeah.
But having the confidence to do that must be liberating. If you get a guy that's, I don't know, 30 or 40 or whatever, and suddenly they've got the confidence, either from listening to you or reading your book or talking, and they can go and do that. It's not grandiose to say, it's life-changing, really.
Yeah.
So there's a change in how they feel about themselves, how they'll portray themselves, and you hope it gives them pleasure, therefore they're feeling more positive, and every part of their life evolves. So, wow. No pressure on you to sort that out, but yes, I think you'd be fabulous people to go and talk to. And when you obviously give a lot of yourselves to people, to fans, and you invest a lot of time in what you're doing, and you're very professional, and it's a business, and you have to make it work, and all those things. How do you look after your own mental and physical well-being? So sometimes it can be a lot to sort of take on, and you must feel overwhelmed. So how do you make sure that you're in top shape physically and mentally?
Yeah, I used to be terrible at this. I would literally like sit at my laptop from the moment I woke up to the moment I went to bed. But my partner's really good. So like, as soon as he comes home from work, I'm like, right, okay, I'm done for the day. Like, my office is separate to the rest of the house, so like the door just gets shut and I leave it alone. And I would normally work all weekend, but now I'm like, no, the weekends are for time with him and the doggos, or family and friends. And so much better at just being like, no, just, it can wait. There's nothing, nothing bad's gonna happen. It's fine. I do a lot of running and cycling. So I sort of, I went out for an hour run this morning, and the dogs need walking every morning. So I like being outside a lot, especially as the weather's been fantastic at the moment. So
it's been amazing, isn't it? Yeah, where you are, there's some beautiful scenery and beautiful. It's very hilly where you are there.
Yes, it is. I did do a hill run today.
Do you get? Do people recognise you when you're out and about? Do they approach you, and how do you handle that?
Generally, not so much. I do dress down a lot when I'm just day to day. So I did get recognized at my local Sainsbury's once. Someone came up to me with pen and paper, prepared, ready to ask me for an autograph.
Wow, that's awesome.
So it does happen. Or I get messages on social media later that day saying,
Okay.
"Oh, I think I just saw you here."
Yeah.
Weirdly, I get it more in America than I do in the UK, but I think that's just because Americans are more confident to approach you than the Brit.
Yeah.
But then I'm very good friends with Ava Austin, and when we're together, she quite often gets recognised, but people don't recognise me. And I'm just like, okay, cool. But I quite like that. I like just being under the radar and just being able to go about my life and not think that anyone's watching me or anything. I'm quite an introvert, really. So yeah, I quite like just.
How does that work then?
I know. Yeah. A exhibitionist, but an introvert. I don't know if that's maybe the right combination. I don't know. It works somehow.
Yeah, well, seems to. I guess sometimes you get if couples are out and about and maybe the guy recognizes you, he's probably not going to say to his girlfriend, "Oh my God, that's Adreena Winters."
Yeah.
Which I have from. I went to school with her. Really? Yes. Right. Yeah, I guess they're the ones that say later on, sorry, I was with my wife, couldn't come over and say anything.
Yeah.
Fabulous. I've asked everything I wanted to ask. You've been very, very kind with your time. And I think you would do a really good job of talking to people and helping them engage in understanding themselves better. So I hope that's something you do follow up on.
Thank you. Yeah, it's definitely an avenue that I'm kind of exploring at the moment. So we'll have to see. Because the more I look into it, the more I realize that like qualified sex therapist, it's just very generic. There isn't really much about kink or gender or anything. And I know from my own experience of having therapy over the years as a sex worker, just they don't really know what to say to you because they're just like, ugh, like you're a sex worker, you have these experiences that I have no insight in. And yeah.
I mean, you can set up as a kink coach without any sort of formal qualification. You can call yourself a coach in this country. You can call yourself a therapist, needs to be a bit more formal. But I do think it's a bit like your work, isn't it? It's having that niche, really.
Yeah.
As therapists, and increasingly now, sex coaches or sexologists, whatever that is, that it is quite, because sex is pretty multifaceted.
Yeah.
So expecting somebody to understand everything from BDSM through to chastity to whatever, why on earth would they? But having somebody that is focused on kink and talk about it from the first exploration of a fetish club by themselves to where they are now, that's really appealing, I think. Yeah, I think a lot of people on OnlyFans and other places would follow up on that because you've got the following already.
Yeah.
So you'll have to come back when you're doing some of that work then.
Yeah, definitely.
Fabulous. Thank you. I'll let you go and do the rest of your day. It was lovely to talk to you.
Thank you. You too. Thank you for having me on.